Hello guys, this is Armin, and today we're gonna solve a problem from URI Online Judge. This is my first video, and as this is my first video, let me explain why I'm making this tutorial. The goal of this tutorial is to let people see the approach that we programmers solve problems with. It's not about I'm not gonna show you a solved problem. I haven't read this problem yet, and you're gonna see how I think that I should go to solve this problem. So let's start reading about this problem. So in mathematics, a perfect number is an integer for which the sum of all its own positive divisors, excluding stuff, is equal to a number itself. For example, the number 6 is perfect because 1 plus 2 plus 3 is equal to 6. Your task is to write a program that reads integer numbers and print a message informing if these numbers are perfect or not. So let's go ahead. I'm using code blocks here. So first let's save the program, and there is a file here, test.cpp, rewrite this. Okay. So when you're using C++, I'm using C++ here, you can use C program if you want. So first thing is, let's do the include. iOS, input and outstream, and we're using namespace standard. The main function and the return statement. So we have our skeleton here. Let's start with, we're going to read an integer, and there's going to be test cases, several test case and integers. So first of all, int t scanf. Now why am I using this? cin t. Yeah, I was using C programming, so like scanf is in my head still. cin t. So we have our test cases here. Our next job is to take values in. So we're going to keep the values as x, which are integers. Input contains several test cases. First contains a number of test case. The following line contains an integer x that can be or cannot not be a perfect number. So our first job is to find the divisors of it. So the logic behind divisor is that if we divide the divisors and if there's no remainder, so it's a divisor. Okay, so our first job is find all the divisors, and we're gonna have a sum here, right? So let's keep a sum here, sum. Okay, let's do a loop for, this is for our test case here, int I is equals to 0, I is less than test case, I plus plus. So our first job would be to read the number x. Okay, we have a number here. So our next job is to find its divisors, right? So to find its divisors, we're gonna go from 1 and to the half of its number. We do not need to check all the numbers from 1 to x. We can, if we check 1 to x by 2, then that's enough. So we're gonna do a loop here, int I, or let's say j. J is equals to 1. J is less or equals to x divided by 2, and j plus plus. You see here we could have written x, and that would be okay. Just to make this program a little bit more efficient, we're writing x by 2. For, this is the for loop, so we're looking for divisors here. if x percent, this is a modulus, x percent I, so we want divisors, right? Equal 0. So there's no remainders. X modulus I is equal 0, so that means there's no remainder. If there's a remainder, it will be something other than 0. Okay, so if this happens, what we're going to do is we're going to sum. We're going to keep it in a sum. Sum plus equal to not x, I. So for every test case, we're going to have to reset the sum. Okay, so for that, we are going to write here sum is equals to 0. So now for every test case, this sum resets to its value to 0. So we'll have a sum here, and this loop will check and get all the divisors, and all the divisors will be summed and kept in this variable. And so we have our divisor sum here, sum, and it also excludes the number itself, because as you can see here, I've used x by 2, not x, so the number itself has already been excluded. So let's go to the next step. The next step is to check if the sum and the number itself is equal. If sum equal the number itself, then we're gonna, and this is our what we want, and we're gonna keep it in our result. So as there's a test case scenario, we're gonna have to use an array to keep the result. So the array would be, let's declare it up to test case. So it will be int result array, and the size will be test case, and just +1 for because it's better to have a little bit of extra space. If you just have would have written t, it would suffice, but writing +1 would be better, because it's better to have some extra space than not. Sum equal x. So we have a result here, result array I is equals to which one? Let's say 1. Okay, this is 1. Else result, we could have kept a Boolean array. Result I, let's say it's 0. Simple. Okay, so if it's 1, let's say this is true and this is not. Let's try it with Boolean. Okay, it's supposed to be easier. It's a Boolean array, so it's more efficient. So let's say it's true and this is false. Oh, I've never used it like this, so it may not work. Oh, we'll just edit it back, doesn't matter. So our job here, we have all our test cases here, right? So we're going to just have to print the test cases. Int I is equals to 0, I is less than the test case, I plus plus. We got a cout statement, and we go there and copy. Oh yeah, that's not the cout statement. So it will be an if-else scenario. So if result I is true, so writing it like this, it'll check if it's a true or false. If result I is true, then it'll go to, let's say we print, it could be a printing statement. We'll print, we want x, right? That's a problem. This here is a problem. test cases. So this is a bit of a problem. Well, the problem here is we can just print perfecto or whatever. Let's do that for now. See if our program works. Because we have just in our array there's only true or false values. Okay, and so we don't have 6 and 5 and whatnot. That needed to be kept in the array. That would be good. The problem here is we haven't kept another array. Maybe we're gonna need another array, but for now let's just print this. Let's see if our thing works. And line and else cout. Okay. So let's just keep something here. So let's say we keep I, position the index. Okay. So is everything correctly? Let's run the program. The input cases are 3, 6, 5, 28. Here we can. The good thing about code blocks is we can copy paste. We're going to copy the value and right click here on the console if there's something wrong with the program. Okay, let's try this again. 3, 6. There's something very wrong with the program. So let's find out what's wrong and where it is getting hung up. I think the problem is here. So what we do for debugging is cout a line here, and we're gonna, let's say this is our first line, is end line. Let's copy this, print it here. This is our second line. So we're gonna run this, right? 3, and let's say 6. Wow, that's a bigger problem. So like if there was a problem here, then this line would have printed, but this line would have been skipped. So the problem is not there, the problem is here. Okay, so let's print another line. So cout I'm just too lazy for this. Three, 6. So another line gets printed. You see, so the problem, this line gets printed, this line gets printed, this line doesn't get printed. So the problem here is here. It's as simple as that. So what is the problem, right? So as we can see that the problem here is, this is I don't actually know what the problem is. So the problem is, in this loop we've used j. Okay, we've used j from 1 to j. So and here it is if x%i. So this is not supposed to happen. We're supposed to use j here, right? And sum plus equals to j. I is for the test case. For this loop we have used j, so it should have been j here. What happened here? How did this line disappear? Weird. Okay, so let's run the program again. 6. Okay, that's weird. Another line, first line, second line. So all of these lines have been printed, and this loop here is done. We've come here. This is our printing, so it goes back and takes another input. So everything is working just fine. So we're going to delete these lines just for debugging purposes. And we can get the values, the test cases. E perfetto, now e perfetto, e perfetto. That's what they're supposed to be. Okay, our next issue is having these things. Okay, we're gonna need to have them in an array. So we're gonna need an integer array of x. Let's say inputs, right? And we already have an x, so let's call it inputs. And it's best if we have the size here. The number of the test cases is here. So int input is the size of test case plus 1. So we have C in here, so the X is here. So input I is equals to X. So the better, the more efficient approach would be to work with this input and not use this at all, because we don't need to use this. If we just use this, that would be better and more efficient, and we don't have to use this. It's way more space efficient. But why would you do that? Because it's just a bit of space here, and it's more easier to it's just easier to use X rather than always accessing some array. So we're gonna use this X. We're gonna keep this X, and we're gonna input these values of X in the input array. And when we're doing this, we're not going to use I, we're going to use input I is the index. Now we're going to run the program, and that's because we have a comma here. That's because it's a spelling mistake. Okay, I already have it copied. 6 è perfetto, so everything looks fine. So our job here has finished, so we're gonna copy this. We're gonna paste it here, but before pasting, select the language, submit. Well, I have really slow internet. Accepted. So as we can see, this is my first video of this series, and it kind of took longer than expected, because it's better to take long, because like you need to see the problems. Like problems gonna happen. You're programming a program, you don't know what you're doing, and this is not something you have done before. Like it's not a problem you have practiced before. It's a new problem for you. So when you're doing a new problem, so it's gonna happen. You're gonna find problems. So you're gonna reach some dead ends. So the approach is that I'm here trying to show you the approach that you're gonna face problems, but don't stop. You have to keep working on it, and ultimately you will be able to solve the problem. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the video.